I am Tom Mealy, and this is another edition of the Long Island View.
And I am Tommy Marr, and welcome to our set tonight. We have a great show for you.
You know, motivational speaking has become very popular, Tom, as you know. And, you know, it's our pleasure tonight to have somebody here on the show that, and I hope I get this right, from what I understand, Congress, help me out here, actually dedicated a day, and I'm gonna ask our guests when we bring them on, to motivational speaking.
Yeah.
And this was all through the help of our guest tonight.
I just hope that the Congress was actually listening to the motivation.
I hope they were, because they sure need it. It's our pleasure to introduce to the Long Island View, Mr. Kevin McCrudden. Kevin, thank you.
Tom,
did I get that right
thanks
this time?
McCrudden, yes, thanks so much.
See that?
Yeah,
I got it right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's really great.
Motivational speaking, motivational speaker, explain that to us.
Well, since you mentioned the date, January 2nd of every year is National Motivation and Inspiration Day. I had it passed through Congress after the tragic events of 9/11. I brought it to then the congressman, who was Felix Grucci. And Felix and I were acquaintances. And when I brought it to him, he said, Kevin, this is a brilliant idea. And literally, he brought it to committee, and they said, let's do it. So from 9/11 to December, they had the resolution written and passed, which was pretty quick. So they were listening then. I don't know if anyone's listening now. But yeah, so 15 years ago. So it's already 15 years ago that I had National Motivation and Inspiration Day created and passed by Congress.
And thanks to you.
Well, it was, you know, it's a collaborative effort, as all things are. But, you know, I had a congressman at the time that was willing to listen. And it was the timing. It was after 9/11, and I think everyone felt like, you know, motivation and inspiration were incredibly important. So it was really a matter of timing.
Yeah.
And I understand, you know, talking off camera, early on, you had your own marketing company. That's what you did for a living. You did marketing.
Yep.
How did you get into motivational speaking and going out there and helping others? And
what I tell people is that really just, you know, life kicked my ass. It just, you know, things happened that were out of my control, and life got out of control. You know, at the age of 34, I was divorced twice. I had a young son. You know, married my college sweetheart, and we got divorced, and then got remarried. And the woman that I'd been married to was cheating on me for half of my marriage. When I found it all out, just everything fell apart. I had been running for office. People lying to me there when I was running for office. So at 34, after being a professional athlete and having all these great things in my life, I thought, you know, how in the world is someone cheating on me? You know, how did this happen? So at 34, there was a big spiral, and I had a client of mine that was in New York City that said, Kev, just, you know, come into the city, do some work for me. And one of the first things he did is he handed me a set of CDs from Brian Tracy and said, The Psychology of Achievement, and said, Kevin, why don't you listen to this? I think it'll make a really big difference in your life. And it did. It made a huge difference.
Well, you got to take your hat up to this gentleman, because he obviously was someone that cared a great deal about you.
Yeah, absolutely. David was a great guy.
They're pretty rare nowadays.
You know, it seems that way. There are people out there that care, but, you know, when you have close friends, there's a handful of them that you can really count on.
It does mean a lot.
Yeah.
You, how long did it take you before you actually sat down and listened to that CD?
It was the next day.
You did?
Yeah.
You know, because I find it that, and I know that we were talking about it earlier, that, you know, when somebody tries to give me advice, even though I listen, I don't know if I'm truly listening to what people have to say. It's, you know what, I think that's natural. But I was watching some of your speeches when you get up there. I mean, you really know how to get into somebody's soul, and they stop and they listen. How do you do that? I mean, it's, and I wanted to get, I'm sorry.
Well, what I think, and I think I know Kevin pretty well, just in the short time we've known each other, but I think it really means a lot when you actually literally went through it. And he went through it, and he found his way through the tunnel to the light. And, you know, what better guy to get you on the same journey. You know, I mean, if you're a guy that just thinks you know it all and you didn't live it, you know.
One of my favorite
it's
sayings. One of my favorite sayings is theory is great, yet in application.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that theoretically know things or theoretically think they understand things,
Right.
and then it's another thing when you have to actually go through it. You know, a modern version of that is, I think it's a Mike Tyson thing, is everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? It's things change, right? So when you get hit, you have to understand how to counter it or how to come back. And when you don't have the resources or the tools or the education or the emotional ability to rebound or overcome what adversity has been given to you, you have to learn. You can't solve the same problems. I think Einstein said you can't resolve the same problems of the past with the amount of education you have. You have to have new education. So I think for people that maybe don't take advice or are unwilling to take advice, it may be due to your level of success. Is if you're being successful in spite of challenges, then why would you listen to other people's advice if you're being successful? At some point in time, though, and in this case, after 2 divorces and things going pretty badly, I was pretty open to
But you were
advice.
successful in business. It was not
Yeah.
being successful in love
In your
or
personal life.
in your
Well,
personal life.
Let's
Yep.
face it. I mean, you could be the most successful guy in the world and find out that your wife was cheating on you with your friend. You really don't care about your business.
But is that something that you did wrong, or is it something that
well, that's what
she
he
did wrong?
didn't know.
Brilliant. And that's the conclusion we all have to come to. And one of the things that I bring out in almost all of my programs is I ask people to go like this, to point at someone else. And every time you point at someone else, there's one finger pointing at them, but there's 3 pointing back at you. There's personal accountability. So for every situation you're in life, you need to have personal accountability for why it happened. At some point, those 2 women, the only common denominator was me.
Right.
So I needed to figure out what was my issue that I had brought those women into my life. And now, thank God, I'm in a 10-year marriage with the most beautiful, wonderful woman in the world, Mrs. Motivation, and she is she's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I went through a lot of work to find her and to hold on to her.
Well, we have very parallel lives
As we
because
say.
I went through two marriages, and believe me, even when they're bad, even when they're bad and you don't even like being in them, it's a tough thing. And Kevin, don't you also feel that the way in our generation when we grew up, you got to be a man, you don't cry, so it's not a thing. It's a little different now.
Absolutely.
But in our time, we were taught, be a man. Real men don't cry, which is baloney. That's a total joke. And you're left to figure this out yourself because I'm not going to dump this on any of my friends or anything. And it's time. It's time for men to realize that there is a different side to men, and women need to understand it also.
Oh, yeah,
because,
absolutely.
a lot of people wouldn't understand. I'm a very sensitive guy. I am. It took me a long time to figure that out. But I went through 2 marriages, and I took a nice long wait in between. After the second one, I was like, I'm never going to do this again.
Right.
And I used to go every day. I would go down to like Cedar Beach or Gilgo or something. I would just walk, just for my head.
Right. To
Try
clear
to
your
figure
own.
it all out. Was it me? Is it him? Is it me? Is it, and it's a tough thing. And then I realized, I said, it really wasn't me, but in reality, it really wasn't. And it made me feel good that I realized I was a good person. And now what's the next step in my step? And I made that decision that day. I said, I just want to be happy. And if I'm alone the rest of my life, as long as I'm happy, I raised my 2 daughters alone since they're 2 and 4 too.
I want to talk about.
Those are important
Am I
decisions,
bad?
Tommy. Those are important conclusions to come to.
It is.
Yeah.
It really lets you go forward.
Oh,
It doesn't
absolutely.
keep you in that cage.
You have to resolve the issues in order to
Yep,
go forward. Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
I want to talk about Motivational Monday.
Yeah.
Motivational Monday is something that you're involved with here on Long Island.
Yep.
Okay, and Motivational Monday is the last Monday of every month.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell us about Motivational Monday.
So I'm working with Long Island Business News and with you guys in promoting Motivation Mondays, which I've been doing now for a little over 10 years. I had a copy written. And what I really, it feeds into a lot of my motivational stuff that I do, is Mondays for a lot of people are very difficult. And certainly professionally it's difficult. People wake up Monday morning and they're like, oh no, another Monday. So I realized that in a lot of my training that I had done, that people have challenges getting started in their week, getting there, being organized, and then moving forward to have a successful week. So for me, the creation of Motivation Mondays was that I was writing things to try and encourage people to be motivated, to be inspired, to have energy, to have passion about what they're doing. And that's what we're doing here on Long Island with the Motivation Monday program with LIBN, is we're actually going to do a physical program locally at the Upsky Hotel in Hauppauge. And we're inviting people to come down, literally network, but also go through the motivational program of Motivation Monday so that they can learn how to get that fast start in life, get that fast start on Mondays, and then really see it through. And then every Monday, if you start with that energy, with that passion about what it is that you do, what it is that you're doing for a living, how you're working, how you're living, how you're organizing your work-life balance, all those things, if you have a strategy for it and passion for it, hopefully it makes an impact and changes your life. It changes how you view your life, and it changes your balance of your work-life balance. So that's what Motivation Mondays are all about.
And I know that when this takes place, obviously we're going to be streaming it live as well. You wrote a book called Who Am I?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I can go on and on and on, all the things that you've done over this period of time. Let's talk about the book.
Yeah.
Who am I? What a great name.
Well, it's actually Who Are You? And so Who Am I? That's a question that I want everyone to ask. Who are you? Like the Who asked, 40 years ago, right? Who are you? And I think for everyone, that goes through college, there's a philosophy, or there's a program that's taught about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Dr. Abraham Maslow was a behavioral psychologist out of the 60s and 70s. And he created this hierarchy of needs, which is really a triangle. And for years in training and development, I would see this triangle, but people would refer to it as a pyramid. And I was like, well, I don't see the pyramid. So I had this hypothesis of, how can a one-dimensional model represent the multidimensional nature of the human experience? And I said, well, it can't. So once again, sort of being the youngest of 8 kids in a family, and being the youngest of 5 boys, and my brothers were professional athletes and really very talented people, I had a certain insecurity about me. And it's like, well, how do I write something that changes something that Dr. Maslow did? So I had a good friend who was the head of psychology at Harvard. I sent him my transcript and said, Dr. Arthur Sir-McCauley, I said, Arthur, could you take a look at this and tell me if you think it holds water? And he said, Kevin, this is a legitimate transition from Dr. Maslow's original work. You should work on this, expand it, and publish it. And that's how I published it. So it's really about teaching people the multidimensional needs that they need to meet in order to, at the top of the pyramid is called self-actualization. So when you get to self-actualization or fulfillment, that's where, Tommy, you're talking about before, about being happy, about being content. That's where you find contentment. And that's what the book's about helping people get to become the very best you that you can be. That's what the book's about.
I got to tell you something, and I mean, I'm not going to take up the time but I will say one thing, and I do want you to know that those 3 words, 35 years ago, changed my life completely for the better. I just want you to know. Yeah. But those 3 words, who are you, changed my life completely. I probably wouldn't be here without those 3 words.
Tommy, and it's interesting how it comes to all of us. It comes in different questions. It becomes a different presentation for all of us.
Yep.
In your circumstance, it was how it was presented to you that it finally got through.
I had to actually think who I was.
And for all of us, the same thing as you had talked about, I think we all take for granted. Like,
right.
I am who I know exactly who I am.
Right.
When you're tested, when challenges hit, and you really question, who am I? What am I doing? What am I doing in this world? What am I doing professionally, personally? When you really start thinking about it, it can be a very powerful question that creates an opportunity to make change. And that's where you need to make positive change about your life. Not be negative, not to go to drugs or alcohol or other types of dependencies or getting depressed. It can be very empowering. And when it becomes empowering to determine, I want to be a better person. I want to be the very best that I can be. Now you tap into something. And now what it's called is living an inspired life.
I know a lot of people, and that the more we get into this conversation, I think that a lot more people really, really need to tune into this show for Motivational Monday. And I'll tell you why. There are so many people out there on Long Island that I think are lost. They're and we know a lot of them. That they come here and they say, I just can't get started, or why am I always in this ditch, or why can't I get out of it? And I'll tell you a quick story, because, you know, when you were saying it happened to you, you know, I'm thinking to myself, 30, let's see, we're going to 20 years I'm with Vicky, so that would have to be about 35 years ago. I was eating out of a garbage can in a rest area, sleeping in a car. And you're right. Who are you?
You have to go.
You have to wake up. And in this, you know, at that point, and I think in everybody's life, we say to ourselves, who are we, and how do we get out of this and move to the next step that'll get us to where we truly need to be in our life? Yep. You know, life is short, and, you know, you can't go through life saying, well, maybe I'll do it next year, or maybe it'll get better next year. You know, I always say that the world doesn't meet you halfway. If you want it, you got to go and get it.
Absolutely.
And I think that with this book, and I would love to read it, because you're right, there are so many people out there, and now with motivational speaking, with people like yourself and your wife, who actually, the encouragement that you give to these individuals to get up. You know, we have friends, and I'm not going to mention it by name. You know who I'm talking about. They used to do a show here. Yes. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Every single day, it's woe is me, woe is me. Woe is me.
Well, that's
and I
the
say,
thing.
get off your tush, get up and do something, but it's still woe is me 6 months later.
Yeah.
Well,
because there's some
and it
people
doesn't
that
change
capture themselves
they
in
have
that.
not said, who am I?
Or who
They're
do I
not
wanna be?
looking within themselves. They want to blame the rest of the world on it, and they don't want to,
Kevin,
look
how
within
do you get
themselves.
out
You've
of
talked
that?
about blame. You talked about blame, which is part of it, and then part of it is it's who do they want to be. It's who they are is currently not in a great place, and they see
Right.
the world through this victim mentality.
Right.
And one of the things that I talk about in the book is the saying of, you know, same crap, different day. There are people that live their life with that mentality
Is that
that
like
the
a
same
hypnosis
thing every
thing,
day.
though? I mean, is it
Pardon me?
hypnosis in some strange kind
No.
of way?
Well, in a
woe
strange
is
kind of way,
me-
potentially.
Woe is me never seems to end. You know, we
Oh,
have
sure.
another mutual friend,
Oh, sure.
and it's always woe is me. What can you do for me versus what can I do for myself?
Yeah.
So, you know, you getting up there, doing what you do, this Motivational Monday that you're having, you're going to be talking about that, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, you know, it's in everybody's best interest that, let's face it, the world doesn't meet you halfway, and it's not going to come and get you. If I want to do something, if I don't want to eat out of those trash cans, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something about it, so I'm living proof. Tommy, the same way. He was in a dark place. He looked at it and says, who am I? He got out of that dark place, and look where he is today. Yeah. So the benefit of finding out who's inside by listening to what you have to say. I couldn't be a motivational speaker.
Well, you're doing a pretty good job right now, but
No, you can, because this is what you do. Yep. So people should listen, because there's only one way out. And that one way out is only from within.
But listen, Tommy, there is another way out. And unfortunately, we read about it all the time, right? That we're losing kids to drugs.
Well, that's
we're
not a
losing
way
kids
out, though. I
Oh,
mean, I don't see it
it's
as
not
a way out.
Unfortunately,
It's
we
an
lose
excuse.
Kids. Oh, it's an excuse, but we're losing kids constantly because they don't have the perseverance. They don't have the personal strength. They don't have the self-esteem. They don't have the things that they
or
need
maybe they don't
to make
have,
that change.
or maybe they don't have the support system
absolutely.
that you now offer.
Precisely.
You know, there's a lot of families that, you know, their kids are on drugs, and I see it all the time. And I got to tell you, I have seen them turn a blind eye,
Because they don't wanna
blinders on,
believe it.
exactly,
Yep.
because they do not have either they're not educated enough to respond, because they came from, you know, the old expression, you learn what you live. What happens if you grew up in an environment that was the same environment that you're now bringing your children up in? Those children are going to learn what they live from the prior environment or the prior family, and there is no motivational or inspirational individual in their life.
And on the other end of that, the wealthy people, which seems to be, that's who's the kids that are running drugs. They're more, they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to have the neighborhood hear about it and their name and the embarrassment.
Tommy, that's huge. That's huge. And here's the thing is, you know, look, I'm a son of Irish immigrants. We came here. I'm living the American dream. You know, I'm living the idea of, you know, this is America. You can accomplish anything. Unfortunately, one of the things that we have on Long Island in particular is the disease of affluence. Is we almost have too much affluence. Because the American dream is this idea that we want to hand on to our children to have a better life than we had. We have so many people that are so successful on Long Island that have so much money that all they do is continue to give to their kids and give to their kids, and it almost disempowers as opposed to empowers their kids.
And the family, like,
Is
you came from
disintegrated.
my kind. You ate dinner every night together. You watched the shows together. You did everything. You know, that's kind of like
No,
which
that's been
is sad.
disintegrated.
It's
and,
sad.
and they think by giving into their
Right.
children and giving them everything they want that somehow they're buying their love. The reality is you're not. There's no,
No,
discipline.
you're actually
You're actually
destroying.
disempowering them because they don't have to work for anything on their own. You know, I have an older son who's 26, and he's had a couple of friends that have been given Maseratis and Jaguars and very expensive cars as their first cars. What you've done is you've taken away the joy from a kid that gets to buy their first car.
Right.
They'll never know that experience
So
of
what's
driving
their
around in
And the
a
mentality
jungle.
at
drive,
that point?
the drive. It takes the drive away.
What
Exactly.
drives? See, to me, a parent that did that doesn't want to have anything to do with the child and teaching the child how to be a better person. I think that a parent that does something like that is pushing that child
Naive.
off the edge of the cliff.
Well, no, God bless them. I think what they're doing is they've had success and they just want to share it with their child. They're just sharing it in the wrong
but
way.
it's also a lazy way out, too.
Potentially, but that's not what they're thinking when they do it.
Success.
Yeah, but that's not what they're doing when they're doing it. They think what they're doing is doing something really good for their child.
but I
to,
think-
to give them something really cool that differentiates them from their friends. But
For what
it's
reason?
backwards
To make
thinking.
them think that they're better than the average person.
Potentially, and
But
that's
that's
where
not
I
the
know what
right
you're
thing to
saying,
do.
Exactly,
but also too,
exactly.
you know, you could say rather than, hey, you know what, I'm going to down the ballpark with my kid, teach him how to play baseball, throw a thing. You know what? I'll buy him a Maserati instead. You know,
Or get
come
him a
on.
trainer.
Come on, you know.
Or
Yeah,
get him
right,
a trainer.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I won't teach him. I'll get someone
don't
else to
you-
train.
in retrospect, in reality, actually, what you're doing on these Mondays is really giving people a good kick in the ass.
Motivating them, inspiring
well,
them,
I mean,
because
get
all
off your
motivation
butt,
has to
stop
be
complaining.
self-driven, and that's the difference. And that's why I created Motivation and Inspiration Day. There's a difference. Inspiration is that spark, that light, that thing that ignites inside of you, where you create your own energy, and now you become motivated and inspired. If you don't have that energy, if you don't have that light that lights up inside of you
Right.
to make you do anything in life, listen, you're going to be lacking
gonna be
motivation
dull.
because it's hard
But
to
do you
motivate
think
someone like
that
that.
everybody has that light? They just haven't turned it
No,
on, or
absolutely.
they haven't had somebody to flip the switch.
Absolutely.
Well, you're the person then. What you do is you flip that switch with it. I think that if more people would take 5 minutes to listen or to read one of these books or go to the seminars that you put on, I think that would change who they are, which ultimately is, let's face it, we're living in a very unstable world right now. Things are happening around the world that are making everybody very nervous. I think that a lot of it has to do with that, you know, some people just don't care. But I think that we as a nation have to get motivated, we have to get educated, and we have to be better than we were 30 and 40 and 50 years ago.
Absolutely.
And
need to wake
people
up.
are very lazy today. You're right. There's a lot of very rich people on Long Island, and I have a lot of very wealthy friends. And I see that these people do give to their children. When my son was growing up, my son wanted a car. I did go out and buy him his first car. It was a brand new car. I did, but it was a Honda. And my rationale behind that is that if I'm going to spend $5,000 on a car, that $5,000 car has a better chance of breaking down than if I leased a Honda for $150 a month over the course of the lease of 3 years, which comes to $7,000. He is now safe in that car. I didn't go out and buy him a Maserati.
Right.
There was logic behind what I did.
Right.
And to this day, he took that path and he decided, he went to college, he did what he had to do, and he's successful.
And I'm sure
But
he
I
had an
didn't- I
enormous thrill when he got to buy his own,
Of
a
course,
Chevy
it
or a
was-
Chrysler
yeah,
or a
of
BMW. So he got to have that sense of excitement and thrill, like, wow, I moved up, I did this on my own.
Right.
And there's where accomplishment
Well,
is,
like
right?
my dad, big Irish guy, you know, and he always said, you know, we had no money. I mean, we had everything in here,
Yeah.
but we had no money. And he always said, I will get your first car. It won't be a new car. My first car was a 65 Rambler station wagon, you know? But you're so right, because even though that was so, and I think he paid $600 for it. But, you know, it meant so much to me, first of all, that because I knew we didn't have money. So that meant a lot. So there was a lot of love there, I felt.
Yep.
But then when I did buy that next car, that Chevy Impala, on my own, I was so, not that I ran around, just I remember I bought it in West Islip, actually, where Ubies used to be. And when I got into it, I never had a prouder moment in my
Sure.
life.
Huge,
Ever.
huge.
It was, and it wasn't new, but I bought it.
But here's the disconnect, and I want young parents or young families that might be listening that there's a disconnect. It's three old white guys talking, and we don't understand. Here's the beauty about Maslow, and here's the beauty about what I wrote. It transcends time. It doesn't matter what time it is. It's about human behavior. So as long as you're a human, this falls into place. And that's why it doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't matter if we're men, if we're women, if we're kids. This conversation is one that needs to be had, and it's about human behavior and motivation and what motivates people. And that's why the book is so important, because it doesn't matter where it comes from. It stands true regardless of how you apply it. And that's why I'm so proud of the book, is that it isn't my perspective of the world. It's what people have to do in order to meet their own personal needs for personal growth in order to achieve self-actualization or becoming
We've
fulfilled.
got about 2 minutes left here. These seminars that you're putting on, and I highly recommend them, folks. This is not only for the individual who wants to get motivated. This seminar are for parents who want to learn how to motivate their children.
Absolutely.
So,
because
so
once again,
I just
they
want to
know how
make
do
sure
it,
that they
can apply it.
understand that they don't have to sit at the wayside. We got about a
And
minute
Kevin,
left, Tommy.
wouldn't you also say that it would also be great for small businesses to have their people go there?
Absolutely.
To motivate these people that work for you?
Absolutely.
I think that's a real great
Because
thing.
once again, one of my sayings is that no matter where you go, there you are. It's you as a human being. Sooner or later, whether you're at work, whether it's your personal life or your professional life, you need to know how you operate in order to create results.
Yeah,
We got about 30 seconds. Kevin, can you give us a website where they can reach you or how they can reach you?
Sure, they can go to www.kevinmccrudden, MCCRUDDEN.com, kevinmccrudden.com, and find out more about my book and my other stuff that I do.
And when the seminar is?
And the Motivation Mondays, the last Monday of every month.
Terrific. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another edition of the Long Island Review. This is very interesting. And for those of you watching, if you feel that your kids need to be motivated, if they're sitting on the couch, they come home from school, you need to learn how to do this. You want to bring them along, check out Kevin's website, get down there to the seminar, learn how to do this. Let's make a better society for our kids today. I'm Tom Mealy.
And I am Tommy Marr, and I got one thing to say. Who are you?
Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, guys.
Be blessed.